What's up, my dudes? Indy Round 1 RF track review. The Quad Daddy, bro. Oh my god. You can literally hit the backside of the finish line landing there and hit a quad. That's pretty interesting. I don't really know if anybody actually hit that in the race, but yeah, so we got some positives and negatives to take out of this track right here, but one thing I want to get across right off the bat, you guys know I've been talking about all these tracks so far in 2021, all these RF replica tracks. The rhythms are too easy, they're too simplistic, you learn the track in 2 laps, all that kind of shit. That is one thing I can say about this track right here is it at least, the obstacles at least make you think a little bit, right? You at least have to think about what you're doing to be able to hit some of the jumps on this track and some of the obstacles on this track. It's not just so basic and so easy that you just literally, have the track down in a lap and a half, right? There's at least some kind of substance to the obstacles. This is what I've been talking about. I don't know why they'll go in there and have like 2 or 3 rounds every year at the start of the season that's just so damn easy and so simplistic. It's like, why did it take you this long? I just don't understand why it wasn't like this in the first round. But anyway, so this right here is a perfect example of an actual somewhat hittable, bigger quad line that you could possibly hit in the race. Right, let me back that up a little bit for you. So this is a perfect example. And that whole video I brought up where you guys said, oh, Spencer, talking about that, I don't know what round that was, either the second or third one where it had like 2 just ridiculously stupid, 1 in 30 lap quads, right? And I was like, that shit, and I didn't even mention it in my track review because they weren't even really hittable quads like on the 17 tracks. But this quad right here is... This right here where you come around, you quad up over this table, which then opens up a triple at the end, or a quad double, but that wouldn't be faster. Triple out right there. That is an actual hittable big line. Like, straight up. They've not had one of those this entire season so far. All that shit they had at that one round where you come out of the sand section and quad in, all that bullshit, that was like so erode specific / you're not going to hit that shit consistent. Like, that's exactly my point. That's the difference right there between an actual, like a 2017 style, somewhat hittable, bigger line versus that 1 in 20 lap, not even feasible kind of line. Perfect example right here. This right here is one of them. And this is still a really tricky, section. You got to hit it pretty wide. You got to square it up. You got to do a lot of things to be able to hit it like that, right? But it's just, there's such a difference in something. I'm telling you, I've played this game long enough to know when something is actually going to be feasible, hittable in a main event and not. Like, I know what that is, bro. So that's one positive about this track is the rhythms are actually, the obstacles actually make you use your brain a little bit. You got to figure out what you're doing. Now, I don't really know why they chose to smooth the corners back out again. Seems like they've kind of reverted back to that here. They had quite pretty good sized berms on their first 3 rounds. They've kind of reverted all that and went back to that more smooth, almost like they had at the beginning of the 2020 series. Not really. This corner right here has no berm at all. Not really sure the decision behind that. You can still pop off right there, but you can see the difference. Like, I could sit there and hit it 3, 4, 5 laps in a row and then have a crash on it. Whereas when you have a rhythm that's too hard, it's like you crash on it 4 or 5 times in the row and then you just hit it once. You see the difference? Like, there's definitely a difference there, but yeah, in the finish line, they finally made that quite a bit bigger. Literally like probably another 20, 30 foot bigger than any of their other finish lines this year so far. I don't know if they did that because the start straight comes around to it. So I can't really give them like a ton of credit on that because I don't really know if they meant to make it that big per se, or they were just kind of trying to give you more room around where the first corner sweeps around. I don't know. But traction still, I mean, there's just something about the traction to me that still feels a little bit goofy. I don't know. There's just something about it that is just so, it like feels good in one moment, and then in another moment, it just feels weird. It just feels janky, you know, and it kind of goes back and forth between the two. I just don't know any other way to explain that, but this main triple here is a little, I mean, just, you know, 5-10 foot too short. This jump right here, I would say, jumps over the over-under. I mean, I guess they kind of have to make it that size because of the object, you know, the actual over-under object right here. But at the same time, the way you kind of come off of that main triple, man, I think they could have padded just a little bit more dirt out here or give you a little bit more of a landing. And that's kind of what I feel like with the main triple too. It's just like the landing just feels small. It's not necessarily that it's, you know, like too short in the sense of, you know, it's not far enough away from the first jump of the Supercross triple. It's just, it just feels like, I think it is still that a little bit. You can see kind of right here how it almost looks like the landing there is actually closer to the middle jump than the first jump of the triple, right? So if they just extended it like 5 or 10 foot and made the landing just a little bit bigger, I feel like it would have just made that feel better right there. Same way at the over-under. If it was just a little bit bigger, I feel like it would have made it feel a little bit better. But yeah, every corner, you know, they kind of run into this thing with this making the tracks around a road where every corner feels the same on a track, right? This corner right here is the only one that's somewhat different because it's just like totally flat. Almost kind of gets like a Talladega style corner. Not quite though. You know, I don't know if this quad's actually any faster really, but I know that because, you know, you're having to go so far wide and kind of stop and then square yourself up here. I would assume it's probably faster because it allows you to do a triple out. You know, you're not like spending too much time in the air per se, and you're able to get over all the jumps fast enough. I kind of would, if you could get it down and get around that flat corner fast enough, I do think it would actually probably be faster, but I don't even know if you can hit that when you start getting a road in that corner. I don't know if it makes it easier or not. I haven't really tested that on it, but yeah, the finish line does feel, you know, pretty big in comparison to some of the other tracks this year just because they've been so small all year long, right? But yeah, I don't know. They just definitely rolled the corners off again. Not so sure what the reasoning was behind that exactly, but this is more of the standard line here. You know, it's kind of like a double, triple here, but if you try to go, let me play this back here real quick. So a prime example of what I tried to explain in some of my previous track reviews was, you know, when I talk about like, oh, the jumps don't have enough skill gap. Oh, they need more big lines and quads and stuff like that. And a lot of you guys try to swoop in there and say, well, it's not all about quads, man. They can't just have quads everywhere, right? It's not just about that, right? It's also making your triple N, your standard 3N rhythms an actual challenge. You know, something you have to think about trying to get momentum and speed out of the corner. Up to this point, you haven't even had to think about it at all. You just hit the fucking corner and you're going to hit the triple N. You're going to hit the 3N. But this right here, you actually have to think about it, right? How tight this corner is. They got the berm a little smoothed off. They got the jump peak pretty, you know, they got the jumps distanced and peaked decently right here, where you actually have to think about what you're doing coming into this corner if you want to be able to 3 in right here. I'm not saying it's actually going to be faster and going up the inside necessarily, but just saying, like, that's a perfect example of how you make something that's not necessarily a quad line, something that actually still has some kind of a skill gap to it, right? You guys get that shit so twisted, it cracks me up. It's just like, no, it's not just all about having quads everywhere. It's not just all about having giant, unrealistic scaling jumps. Oh my God, what the hell are you talking about, Spencer? Like, you guys just blow everything so out of proportion, it cracks me up. Anytime you're negative about anything on YouTube, people are going to do that. It's just the way it is. Especially RF fanboys, especially RF officials, you know. They don't like when anybody disagrees with them, so it's kind of just the way it is. And it cracks me up how many things that they have were so dead set on like a year or two ago, right? And we would go in there and tell them, yo, RF, why are you not doing this? You need to make this better. And they acted like we was so stupid, like we didn't know what we was talking about, right? And all those things that they have now reverted on, right? Like the ground decal now, you know, they've just totally went back to the more realistic, actual high-resolution ground decals. You know what I'm saying? You know, like over the past 2 years, I've been telling them to do that. What the hell is this Play-Doh-ass looking bullshit decals? And all you guys try to defend RF like, oh, it's just so you can see a road better, Spencer. It's okay if it looks like literal, like a fucking game from 1994. It's okay. It's just, it makes the road show up better, dog. Right? You guys have been preaching that horse shit for like 2 years now, and here they are. Now they're back to doing high-res decals, right? I have my graphics on half right now so it doesn't get the weird grain effect on YouTube, but trust me, if you go in there and you turn your graphics up, it shit's on another level than it was past couple years, these 2021 Supercross tracks, as far as the ground decal texture specifically. So they've now reverted on that. So was I wrong on that, RF, huh? Telling you to do that? Did you really need such high-res shit for a road, or could you just, you know, have lower-res versions? Interesting, isn't it? It's just like what, and that's just a plethora of other things, though. That's the same way, you know. It's like they fought us on the berms. They didn't want to make the berms bigger. They thought their berms were plenty big enough. We fought them on that, and then here they are in 2021. First 3 rounds, the berms are like twice the size they've been having the past couple years. It's just like, seriously, RF? Really? How many other things are you going to revert on? Like, how many other things are you going to finally start doing like what I've been telling you to do for the past 2 years? You're just continuing to do more and more things. You've upgraded the stadium. You've upgraded the look to everything. You've made the berms bigger. It's just like, what are you going to do next? Are you going to actually make proper scaling? Are you going to actually make, you know, now you're starting to get a little more back to that proper jump, rhythm, skill gap type vibe. You going to bring all that back, huh? Sometimes it seems like you do it for just one round like you did last year. You did it for like maybe 1 or 2 rounds, and that was it. Then you went back to your horse shit. So, I mean, RF, it's all right in front of you. I don't understand how it's so hard to understand that. And it's funny because I sit here and watch you go back and forth because you know good and fucking well what I'm talking about. Because you'll do it, and then you'll revert and go back to bullshit, and then you'll do what I say again, and then it's just like, I just don't understand it. But either way, you know, I certainly would prefer to ride on this track than those first 3 tracks. Just because of the fact of it making me have to use my brain on the track. It doesn't just feel like I'm on autopilot mode. I have to actually think about what I'm doing. These whoops can get a little bit tricky because you're trying to sweep that corner as you're hitting them there. I think the other whoop section could have been like 10% bigger whoops, 10% more spread apart, right? This one right here, obviously, but and, you know, to some of you guys that are sitting there thinking, well, Spencer, this track sucks. I love those first 3 tracks. This one just sucks, right? Well, if you're saying things like that, odds are you're probably either a beginner, an amateur, or a 250 pro in the game, period. That's the only real reason why you'd be saying that. Because if you're really a full-blown professional fast dude in this game, this track is going to be so much more suited to you, so much more fun to you, because you can actually separate yourself from everybody, strictly from the obstacles, right? Like, that's my thing. Like, if there's no obstacle separation, and literally an amateur's hitting the same shit that I'm hitting, that's when it kills my whole vibe. Like, that's when I just don't have a good time on a track, because it doesn't feel like an actual professional track to me, right? So this track definitely has some more of that right here. This is not a perfect track, but good God Almighty, at least it has some kind of a obstacle substance to it, right? And to some of you guys think I'm just some RF hater, can never say anything positive about RF. Well, there you fucking go. Here you go. When they do something good, when they do something that I keep talking about, I'll come out here and tell you. Like, I'm not sitting back here just trying to hate on every element of everything they're doing. And oh my God, it doesn't matter what they do, I'm going to hate on it, even though the RF officials like to think that way and the RF fanboys like to think that way. But it's not like that. I'm giving you my honest opinion, period. I'm telling you straight up exactly what I think about the track. And that's all there is to it. Keep making rhythm sections like this one right here, RF, where there's like 3 or 4 different options. They're all like interestingly enough almost the same like speed through it, right? Because when you're having to go so far out here to hit the quad in, you're having to spend time to do that. So it makes you think, is that going to be worth it compared to going up the inside and just doing a triple in onto the table, or doing like a double and potentially like a quad in the middle here and then a quad or something maybe, you know? So there's like 3 or 4 different real, I mean, maybe even more like 4 or 5 different real actual potential hittable rhythms through there, right? That's what you gotta have on a track, man. You gotta at least have one main rhythm section that has, 3, 4, 5 different real options through it, right? And that's one thing I feel like they've been totally missing first 3 rounds. So either way, and even this triple right here, when you come off the finish line, it's like this track actually gives me a little bit of fear when I'm coming around the corner. It's like, that's my thing. When I'm on a Supercross track, I want to get some excitement. I want to be a little scared when I come around that corner, like, oh shit, what's this next obstacle? Instead of just like blowing around the corner and just running right through all the obstacles like they're nothing, right? When you come around this corner, it's like, woo, you can go pretty goddamn fast on these whoops right here. You can get a little sketchy on them. Come around this section, right? You go under the over-under, and it's like, woo, am I going to be able to get the right momentum and steer the bike properly in this corner to really be able to huck this 3 in on the outside, and then this 3, right? Come around the main triple area. Shit's kind of boring right there, but then you come around here, and it's like, woo, am I going to be able to get enough run in, cut this corner properly to be able to quad in up over this table? Triple this, and then it kind of scares you a little when you come around here. You're like, whoa, how fast can I go through these whoops as I'm turning to curve up the inside before the finish line? Then it's like, whoa, this finish line's pretty big, Hoss, and I'm going to have to be on the gas. Okay, badass. And then that's the whole deal with it, that I feel like they've been missing. Those first 3 rounds didn't feel like it had the obstacle challenge that it needed to me. This feels a little more like an actual pro track in the game, right? Yeah, there's definitely some weird, feelings to this track. It's not the greatest track ever, but this is, at least I feel like I can spend a little bit of time on this track, right? Because the obstacles actually take you a minute to learn. It's kind of what all that comes from, but either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.